Welcome back, my friends. This is Dustin Nemos of DustinNemos.com. I am joined by a very exciting guest, Roman Light, who is a representative, if you will, of the YellowVest movement over in France. As much as there is such a thing, it is largely decentralized and everyone has their own opinion and everything else. So, he's not like the leader or anything, but he has some insight, he has some ground level experience, and he has some positive things to say and some negatives that we're going to cover as well. Some terrible things they're facing in backlash. So Roman, thank you so much for your time. And if you don't mind, I'd like to let you introduce yourself a little bit, kind of talk about your connection to this movement, how you got to where you are, and just give us a real brief overview of what's happened so far to get caught up to where we are.
Yeah, thank you, Dustin, for having me tonight. Look, like where to start? I'm lived in Australia for the last 6 years. So I was just coming in France for holidays to see my family and introduce my daughters, and things happen.
Yeah, crazy.
So I just decided to stay a little bit longer because I saw that there was something happening, and I started to use my skill, which is to speak English, to spread my perspective on the YellowVest movement, because I was upset to see the English narrative in the mainstream media talking about people violence and like it's all about like French people being lazy, doesn't want to pay tax, and socialist and being violent and stuff. And I'm like, this is not the truth. So I made a post on Facebook called "France has a message for the world," and it has been seen by 1 million people in 3 weeks or something like that. And suddenly I've been interviewed by many people, and here I am. Like I'm trying to give a perspective from a French citizen, educated, and trying to understand the underlying level of what are the roots of what pushed the French people to trigger what we call now a global revolution, because the whole planet is involved into that movement.
Yeah, it's spreading, and people are not out there getting shot with rubber bullets and water cannons and things like that and getting beat up just for fun. I mean, there's a reason behind this. There's obviously some passion behind it, and we need to hear what those reasons are rather than just beat those people down into submission, because that's only going to make it worse. It seems there's no slowing, and the worse they get, the more the YellowVest turn out. So they're not afraid, it seems, and that's a great thing to see. I really like to see this sort of freedom, and France is once again showing the world how to protest. Like, you guys are the best. So, if you don't mind, like, get people caught up to where we are, and then we'll kind of go through, the modern.
Yep. So what do you want to know?
Well, just, briefly, what in your opinion prompted the rioting, the YellowVest? Everybody starts wearing them. Now it's spread throughout different countries throughout the world, like you said. Why did we get to that point? What was the government's, reaction? Kind of, they ignored it at first, I guess, and then Macron and his PM decided to come out and just be violent. Just from your perspective, how has it evolved from just a few weeks ago when it started, it seems, and then now?
All right, so let's start from the beginning. Like, the movement started in 17th of November, so it's something still very young. Like, it's just 2.5 months old, so it's something still very young. And the way it happened is that I believe that in many countries in the world, there's a lot of people who are getting upset with the way the world is going. But there's this type of feeling of not being capable of putting the names on the roots of the problems. And the thing is that France has that very particular way to express themselves, which is when they are not happy, they just freeze. Basically, they freeze the economy, they freeze the system, they just protest, and they just like express what's wrong. And the way it happened surprised everyone, because we didn't really know that there was so many people ready to go out, because for the first time in our recent history, like I think the last time it happened was in 1968, so it's like quite a while ago. For the first time in the last 50 years, we started to get out with no real revendication, with no union behind us, with no political parties, with no. It wasn't for Brexit, for Brexit, or it wasn't for a real, like, tax was just something that triggers. It wasn't really the real purpose, because like we came, I think, from a euro the liter up to €2 a liter in less than a year. So they doubled the price of the petrol. So we had many occasions before to get upset. So why did it happen there? I don't know. It was just the right time, the right place. But now that the people are out, what happens is that they just starting to make something that they haven't done for a while, which is to connect with their neighbors, to reconnect with their friends. We were just there because now, since the 50 years, we now have that interface in front of our face, which is called TV, iPhone, iPad, like those media which are blocking us for going out and speaking to our fellow brothers and sisters. And that's the first thing that really shocked people, is that first of all, we kind of depicting a form of hatred between each other just through the narrative of the mainstream media. And suddenly we're starting to realize that no, we're not. Like, who cares if you're voting left or right, or if you're black or white or whatever? We're just like, we're just humans. And we're starting to realize that that we maybe have been manipulated for years to be separated and divided, and that now that we reconnected all together, we will not stop until we will achieve something. And as you said, the response from the governments were initially to deny the things and to just let us go, but then the violence escalated very quickly, not from our side. And actually, like, initially, I guess there was like a little bit of violence, like it was more frustration. I think the first weekend was a little bit violent, and especially in Paris, like not the rest of France. Like, all the videos that people see is what's happening on the Champs-Elysees. But France is a big country, you know. So if you have a little bit of violence in one specific street in the world, in the country, it doesn't mean that the whole country is in civil war. Yeah, I know that the mainstream media loves to have that narrative saying, "Oh, look how horrible! Well, look what's happening in France." No, it's not happening in France. It's happening on the Champs-Elysees. That's it. Okay, so
it's happening worldwide, I would say. I mean, there's many areas where it's showing up, but it's a worldwide issue.
Yeah. Of course. I'm just talking about the violence. Like, the violence scene that people have seen didn't happen everywhere in France. Especially, they only happened for the first few weeks, like the first 2 weekends, I would say, in Paris. Most of the other protestations around France were quite good. Like, they were quite peaceful and okay. But we're starting to see weeks after weeks. You have to understand that the policemen are doing like something like 70 hours a week for probably 2 months now. And the government refused to pay the extra hours, which is upsetting a lot of those guys, because those guys are. It's amazing. We have the best government in the world. Like, they can't even take care of the only thing that is protecting them from us. You know, like they're that level of stupid. You know, so it's really funny what's happening. But in the meantime, they gave some orders. Like, we're getting now into a point where yesterday I heard that. When a YellowVest is injured by policemen, now the medics have the order to not bring them back to the hospital. Like, this is the level of insanity that is going in this country. Like, we had something like, I think now 90 amputated people in France, 90 people who have lost an eye, had lost a hand or foot. So now they're starting to actually make videos to make them and show, like, they're like, look, like, I took the tear gas or dispersion bombs, and the bomb exploded in my hand and I lost my hand. Do you believe that the government would actually say anything about these 90 citizens injured by the police? Zero, nothing. We even had a few people who died. No one is talking about it. It just doesn't exist. No. Now, what the hell is going on? So I'm very aware of how the government is working for years already, so I'm not surprised. But there's a lot of people who, weeks after weeks, when they see the way they are treated by the government and the way the policemen are treating them, are starting to waking up. Like, so there was something like 40% people behind the YellowVest in the very beginning. Now the last polls are talking between 70 and 80% of the French population behind us. So it doesn't mean that all of them are going out and protesting and wearing YellowVest on the weekend. It just means that an extraordinary amount of people are supporting that movement. And it's actually very good, because it really means that we're going to win. We're going to succeed.
The only thing that ever protects tyrants is the illusion that they are actually the good guy, that our government's helping us and all of that. When people realize they're just tyrants, they're just beating up kids and stuff, it changes very quickly. And I'm not one that wants violence. You know, I'm a voluntarist. I want freedom for all. However, this, you know,
on that topic, like last weekend, we had a kid, a 15-year-old kid, who was just leaving a shop with packets. He was just like doing his shopping, and the cop shoot him in the face, and he has a hole, like we can see a hole in his jaw, in his cheek, and it was like, what happened to me? I was just getting out doing shopping, and we're facing people like cops with, I don't know what's going on in their head. Like, I think they just believe that they are in a video game. They don't understand. Like, it's human beings you have in front of you guys. Like, it's your own citizens. It's your own brothers and sisters. Like, France is a 2,000 years old country. There's massive chance that the person in front of you must be in a bloodline somewhere in your ancestors. So what the hell are you thinking about when you're shooting your own bloodline? Like, what's going on in your brain? Yeah. And we actually had a very bad thing happen last weekend as well, which is we had that video which is showing like cops going like, it really looks like they think they are in a video game. They just like send the bombs and go back and shoot and blah blah blah, and in front of that you have a guy walking, like it doesn't even think that he's done something wrong. He's just walking, and they shoot him in the back with a bullet, a plastic bullet, and the guy now is in a coma for 3 days. And he's a father, he's a fireman, he's the father of 3 kids. He was just walking in the street with a yellow vest, and we're facing cops who just behave like savage people. And the worst is that in this video, we hear the cops saying, "Oh shit, what have you done? Okay, let's take the evidence." And no one saw us. And it was actually filmed, and we hear them saying that. And the most crazy thing is that this scene stands for 2 minutes. So during 2 minutes, you see those people running around, like turning around like headless chicken about, oh, what have we done? Oh, this guy is on the floor. Oh, okay. And none of them just had the presence of mind to just go and check how the guy is. And when we see the video of the guy, he's just like pissing in blood and everything. And you see the cops leaving the scene without even coming and asking how the hell this guy is. So when people see those scenes, I can tell you, the citizens are waking up like this, and they're really starting to get outraged now.
It's the Lucifer effect. You give people power, they just turn evil. I mean, they have managed to control the money system and then use the money to have brother fight against brother. I mean, you're absolutely right. These people are probably distantly related. They have a lot more in common, and they're both, both the victim of these elite top-level people who are just completely tyrannical and don't care, and that's why you see this kind of violence. It's terrible. Mm-hmm. So, we've kind of got caught up. We've talked about a lot of the violence. I mean, you're sort of the only guy that I'm aware of, and I think that you're aware of, who's bringing this message to the English-speaking world, and I'm very grateful for that, because you're sort of an inside eye into what's happening at the ground zero of this movement. You're at the epicenter. You're also taking all the risk. You guys are out there getting beat up, like we've talked about. So what is it that the Yellow Vests are trying to get out of this right now? What are their demands? What are the points that they want to negotiate? What is the government doing? Last couple of days, it seems they're just escalating. Where are you seeing things happening? Those are kind of the areas that I want to focus on for just a few minutes.
So the YellowVest movement is a process. It's something that is evolving constantly. It's an awakening, So basically, between the beginning and now, in the early beginning, there was a lot of revendication about like less tax and no GST or how do you say, like VAT on like primordial usage, like water, electricity, stuff like that. Like it was just like money oriented. And then there are like people about like the freedom of vaccinating people, like like the sovereign aspect of the body, like because now we're forced to vaccinate 11 vaccines in the first 4 years of the baby's life, and French people doesn't really like that. Okay, like it's not a question about believe in vaccine or not. It's just that we should have the right to decide whether or not, because we are the one responsible for our kids. Okay, so we don't really like people telling us what we should do with our kids. And then like there's so many things, but the idea that emerged from the group, which is now starting to really kick in the whole country, and not just in the Yellow Vest, actually going way beyond the Yellow Vest, is that notion of the referendum initiated by the citizen, like in short term the RIC, RIC. So referendum initiated by the citizen is the simple idea that we should have, as citizens, a constitutional right to trigger national referendum from our own initiatives. Because a real democracy is not that much about choosing our masters. It's actually also being able to control them. Okay, because if you let the masters doing whatever they want, like then we arrive to a point where no matter if you agree or not with them, they would just do whatever they want. And this is not okay. Like democracy means demos kratos, which is power to the people. So if the power to the people is only the power to choose who's going to dictate you whatever they want, this is not democracy. And I think this is one of the biggest realizations that the YellowVest have been through, that true democracy needs to come through a control of the people that we put in charge. We cannot just let them for 5 years do whatever they want, not being accountable, not being responsible, and us waiting for another 5 years to choose another dictator. This is 2019. We have a lot of technology that could allow us to make something much, much better in place. And just that simple idea of being capable of triggering national referendum from our own initiative could actually fix the whole system. So this is the ramification that is now really implemented, because there's absolutely no point asking or begging for being listened. We want to become powerful. And with that RIC, we can become powerful. We can impose, like basically, the idea is very simple. Let's say we have 1% of the population who has an ID about tax, or about like retirement age, or about the amount of hours we need to work per year, per week, or something like that, whatever. Like not everything about vaccination, health, food, education, everything. You have, let's say, 1% of the population who is signing a petition and decide to trigger a national referendum. If this national referendum hits the population and 50% and more vote for that ID, then this ID is automatically implemented into the law, without asking the Senate, without asking the Parliament, without asking the government. And this is how we can actually regain our democracy back. Not by hoping to be listened, not by striking to be listened, by being powerful. So that idea of powerlessness as the roots of everything that is going wrong in our world is something that is right now spreading across the world. And I'm proud to say that I participate to do that.
You're standing in the moment of history. I mean, you are trying to put the tentacles back in the box and sort of put some restraints on this monstrous government, which we all seem to have these days. It's universal, you know, they're everywhere. And it is time for the people to kind of stand up and let these bullies know that we're going to stand up. We're not going to take this. We're not going to stick us with poisons and control every level of our lives from birth to death. It's just too much. So is the government responding at all with any sort of negotiation? Are they even talking to you?
Yeah, they're talking to us just to laugh at us, basically. Like when you look at the New Year's Eve wish, like it was pathetic. Like the government said, yeah, some people are going to receive €100 per month or something like that. And people say, you don't even listen to us. We don't care about that $100. Like just keep it for yourself. We don't care. We want the right to express ourselves. And so he's like, okay, let's organize a great debate. So this is the new invention of the government. Let's organize a national debate. So, but by the way, we're not going to be able to talk about this. We're not going to be able to talk about that. We're going to tell you where you're allowed to speak and what you're allowed to speak. And basically people saying, you know what, you can keep your great debate and put it where we think it should be.
I think
so
Ron is not honest in his intentions. Yeah.
Absolutely not. Those people are paid by the global elite to enforce policies upon us, and they actually sold France away through the Marrakesh Treaty, imposing massive immigration for the next 30 years. So I think that now we're going to receive something like 1 million new immigrants per year, and this is the UN proposition, and they criminalized the anti-immigration protest. So if we refuse to have 1 new million of immigrants coming from Africa every year, we're going to become like Nazi, fascist, criminal, and we can be put in jail for that. This is the level of insanity. Those people are in war with nationalism. They're trying to associate the notion of nationalism with fascism, which is pathetic. Like they actually, by repeating and repeating and repeating that notion that if you love your country, if you love the land, if you love the culture, if you're attached to your ancestors, you must be imperialists. And this is insane. Mm-hmm. Like fascism was about like hierarchy in race and bringing the Aryan race across the world. Like nationalism is about, okay, I love my country, I love my culture, and that's about that. Okay, mm-hmm. Like, but they're trying to associate that, and some people, not all of them, luckily, are stupid enough to associate nationalism with fascism. And like this is just not okay. Like if you refuse to have 1 million new immigrants per year. Like France is about 65 million people. So if in 30 years you're receiving 1 million new immigrant per year, in 30 years, your population will be 90 million people, and a third of it will actually come from a whole foreign culture that has absolutely nothing to do with your 2,000 years history. And behind that, the second agenda is to dumb down the salaries, because those people would be more than happy to work for $1 an hour, like Germany is doing. Like Germany is proud to have put in place an 80 cents hour fee for workers. So they don't have any unemployment. Look at Germany. They're doing an amazing job. They don't have any unemployed people. The people work for 90 cents an hour. So like, I think this is the plan behind. They just want to dumb down the middle class and just like reduce that power of buying by putting more and more people who are going to be happy to work for nothing, while the rich people are making like billions and billions and billions. The poor people are going to fight each other to survive. And I think this is what France is standing against. Like France says now, enough is enough. We see where you're putting us. We're not going to go there. We draw that line on the ground, and we will not stop until you fail and you quit. And we're ready to die for that. And this is, I believe, what is inspiring the world right now, is to see a whole country rising up, putting that line on the floor and say, enough is enough.
You're setting an example for sure. And you guys, I mean, at the end of the day, even I think the Dalai Lama said that Europe should be left for the Europeans. I mean, you have the right to have your own culture and be among your own people, and you don't have to be invading and you know, imperializing anyone else to do that.
Especially by our own government. Like if the government is instrumentalizing that, like those traitors should be executed. Like there's absolutely no point about that. And this is actually what is interesting, because every time that you're talking about the referendum initiative by the citizen, the people are bringing this argument, oh yeah, you know, like if people are going to vote their laws, they're going to bring back the death penalty. And I said, like, you know what, death penalty for patriot traitors, like for government traitors, I'm not advocating for death, but you know, for those type of beings, like I don't think many people are going to cry if those people would be executed, because now it's so crystal clear that those people are working for foreign interests. And I'm talking about Trudeau as well. Like in Canada, people are waking up about like how in Australia, in Canada, in France, the same people working for the same globalist elite are doing the same thing to the same people all across the world. And the same wish to stop that is rising and rising and rising. And I don't know how it's going to move forwards, but if it doesn't become violent, I don't know how the end is going to be. And I'm not advocating for violence at all. I just know that when I'm facing psychopaths who just refuse to accept common sense and wisdom, it actually make the violence inevitable. It's not coming from
You're
us.
Absolutely right. You hit a key word there as well with the psychopath comment. I mean, they will never back down. They'll never stop. And there's a basic human incentive structure. And you can go read a book on dog training, you know, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. If you do something bad, you get away with it, you enjoy it, you got a positive feeling out of it, you're going to do it again. They have not had any consequences in decades. And I'm also against violence, but I also think that they have to have consequences, or that entire class will always be a parasite. There's no example for them to look around and say, look, he went too far. You know?
Exactly. And this is the notion of wisdom. And that's something that is far from intelligence. Intelligence can be programmed by learning, where wisdom is coming from experience. You know, like you can read hours and hours and hours and days about how painful the fire is. Until you put your hand on the fire, you will never know what it is. But as soon as you put the hand on the fire, you know that you don't want that experience to happen again. And this democracy, the way it has been done, separate the notion of decision-making to applying the action. So we are giving away our right to make decisions to people who are going to make decisions on our behalf, and they're never going to suffer the consequences of their action, which mean that they will never get wise. They will never understand the consequences of their act. If they're sending people to go to war, it's never going to be their kids. So we are actually manufacturing psychopaths. This is the modern democracy, the representative democracy, where the representant is untouchable, actually generate psychopaths. And people need to put this in their brain, because after years and years and years and years and years of electing left, right, up, down, inside out, like it doesn't change. Every time you're electing someone and that person is untouchable and never suffer the consequences of their action, it would drive into a psychopath's behavior. So
no, I would even inject my personal philosophy as a voluntarist. My response would be, if there is ever a position of power, someone is going to abuse it. Like psychopaths are naturally born in some cases, like 4% or something of the population, and they just love those jobs. They want to get in positions of power where they either have political power or moral authority, like around children or charities or priests or churches. They love to get into those.
What is funny is that in our society, we often hear how like some women are victims of narcissists and psychopaths and stuff like that. So everyone is very aware of egotistic, narcissist people. But like, when are we going to realize that to make the decision one day to become president of a whole country, you should actually be in a way like that level of narcissist, egotistic, pathology, sociopath. Like which decent human beings could actually believe that he would be big enough, intelligent enough, strong enough to represent a whole nation out of unresponsible, idiots, crazy sociopaths?
And there you have the big dilemma. Like, good people don't want power and they don't seek power, and then bad people get it while no one's paying attention, and then shit goes to hell again, and it just repeats.
The story just repeat again and again and again, and we're just gonna learn the hard way the lesson again.
Well, Roman, let me ask, where do you see this going? Like you said, you saw violence in the future, not that you want it, but you see no way to avoid it, and you think that that's the way the trend is going. Is that?
I guess you're never going to make an omelet without breaking eggs. So like, we saw a lot of injury, and this has triggered an awakening that we couldn't have hope. Like, this is going so quick. People are waking up so fast that now, no matter what the YellowVest are doing and how bad this could be for the economy, for everything, the French people understand. Like, they will not support. Some people will not support physically. Some people will not support mentally. But at least they understand. They understand that the government has been way too far, and that this is absolutely not okay. Like, even the media, even the specialist or the philosopher, or like the expert, even the expert are there. Like, it's like, okay, like, because what, they feel that very soon things could actually change very quickly, and they could actually become the next target. Okay, because as soon, like, the whole system only exists on one string, which is the police. If the police put the weapons on the floor and start to wear the yellow vest, it's over. So it doesn't have to be violent. It's entirely depending on what the police is going to do. If the police is still enforcing and applying orders which are completely unreasonable, unethical, and if they don't, like, we even saw videos last weekend of a helicopter sending tear gas to population.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, like, what the hell? Like, is it like Syria? Is it Libya? Is it Slovakia? Is it like Ukraine? No. It's the Champs-Élysées. What? It looks like a scene of war. Like, and people don't realize this is not a foreign army attacking us. It's our own police.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not 100% sure that this is, by the way, because there's a lot of rumors who are saying that this is the Eurocop. It's actually the European police which is there to enforce this violence upon citizens, because most of the French policemen will normally feel not really at ease. There will always be like 10-20% of psychopaths, even in the police, which would do something really stupid. But I hope to believe that it's actually coming from a foreign army trying to resolve the situation. But we're not sure. We just know that the minister are just escalating the violence against their own citizen, that they try to qualify us of terrorists. They're starting to say the YellowVest are Talibans. It's like, buddy, we are your brothers and sisters. We are your citizen, and we just want to be listened. We are not terrorists. We are peaceful protesters. But we are not just there to be beaten and with a big smile. Like, of course, if you're beating us, we're going to respond. And now we have absolute proof that the government is paying some policemen to wear some special suits and beating up citizens. We have them on video. It's called the BAC, BAC, and they are really the most crazy things is that we can't really separate them from criminals who would just like wear total black clothes, like they look like Antifa, but they have the police things. Like, but anyone can do that. Anyone can just wear that stuff and just like rape people or kill people and say, oh, you know, I'm a part of the police, or I'm
it goes both ways when it gets to that level of violence. And
yeah, exactly. So like they're playing with the fire, and I don't know exactly how this is going to end, but I just know one thing is that we already went way, way, way above the point of no return. It's over. Like, we're going to win no matter how much it will cost.
I want to make a couple of points about what you said there. Like, on the one hand, you know, I don't know about your government over there, but in our government with the left here, they're completely open and even seems to be encouraging violence against the right. I mean, we have statements like from Pelosi, basically like, you know, sometimes bad things happen. I don't remember like that, but it was basically like, it would be worth it. You know, they don't really care if they hurt us to get to their goals. Like, the Marxists never really have. You know, and beyond that, you guys have had some really good ideas, like pulling all your money out of the banks. Like, if you guys all went Bitcoin and pulled your money out of the banks, combined with the fact that you have, like you said, 70+% approval among the population, like, they don't understand, like the government doesn't understand. There's no way if you study military history, there's no way to dislodge that from an urban setting if they have that much support of the population. Like, an army could hide forever. You would never dislodge them. So they cannot win this, and they're not even paying their own police. It's not looking too good for Macron. And when you see foreign troops or troops from another area coming in, even if they're wearing local uniforms, that's when you worry. In China, at first you see that iconic image of the guy standing in front of the tank and the tank stops. Well, later, you know, they brought in troops from another province and they wiped out millions of people. So be careful about that for sure if you see any UN troops. But, you know, I wish you guys the best, and I hope they don't keep beating you up all the time. Yeah. So,
well, we'll see.
Yeah. Where can people continue to follow your work in English or in French? You know, I'm going to try to invite you back on and give us updates on a regular basis if you want to come on the show here.
Sure.
And just any information that you want to share before we cut it loose.
So the best way is on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel where I actually uploaded all my podcasts and my videos and my lives, my Facebook lives, so they can just go on YouTube. And I think it's Referendum par les citoyens, or Referendum for the citizens. But the best way to find me is RIC, R-I-C, Referendum initiated by the citizen Roman Light on Facebook. This is where you will find most of my posts. There's also Twitter, Roman Light RIC, Roman Light RIC on Twitter. But yeah, Facebook is really the place where I'm posting most of my live. I'm doing a live every week, where now, since yesterday, we actually made the first global live, where now we are attending events every week where people from all across the world are going to now give some update about what's going on we had Canada, we had America, we had Australia, we had England who came and spoke yesterday. So every week we're going to have new countries. We're going to have Netherlands, we're going to have Sweden, we're going to have Finland, we're going to have Portugal. I'm in contact with a lot of people across the world who follow my I don't want to use the word lead, like my advice, let's say, to enforce the referendum initiative by the citizen in their own country. And there's many countries where it's happening pretty peacefully. And yesterday, I even asked the people to start to protest in the French embassy in their country against the violence against our citizens. Because like now we're living in 2019, like we cannot hide those violent images. You just have to go on YouTube and Google French YellowVest violence, and you will see a whole horrific videos. Like you're just gonna fall on your chair about the level of violence that some citizen in this so-called democracy can get through. So yeah, RIC, Referendum initiated by the citizen Roman Light on Facebook, is probably the best way to get in touch with me. I'm answering to every messages, even if I receive probably 150 messages every day. I'm answering everyone. And YouTube is another way to get access. Like I'm also trying to put in place a translation team to be able to translate all my videos on YouTube, so those messages can go to many other countries. And it seems to work. Like it seems that I think now we're getting a minimum 30 countries which are YellowVests, and I am personally or admin or involved into minimum 15 countries YellowVest referendum initiated by the citizen.
Wow.
So I know in Canada we have the YellowVest RIC Alliance that has been created. Right. I know in Australia we have the YellowVest RIC So you always have to use the keyword YellowVest RIC and look at your country. Okay, if you want to join a movement, YellowVest RIC, RIC, and the country, and try to reach those people. But if you're not 100% sure that the people in your country are bringing the right message, there's a chart which is based on 3 points: peaceful protest and smart civil disobedience, no union, no religion, no political parties, and the referendum initiated by the citizen as the only revendication. If you are speaking to people who are advocating far left, far right, religious aspect, or union, or conspiracy theory, or blah, 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 this is not the right page. Like, we only focus on the referendum initiated by the citizen, no violence, no religion, no union, no political parties. Okay, so if anyone pretend to be YellowVest from the far right or the far left and pretend to resolve anything with violence, you are not a YellowVest buddy. Sorry.
Sure, and you guys basically, this is the issue that you can agree on, but it's many different peoples and backgrounds and different perspectives and opinions on things and political parties and all of that. And I want to add to that, you guys. I think Gandhi said that the government is violence and force, and it can never be weaned from that which it owes its very existence. And I think he was absolutely right about that. And at least one good thing that comes out of this is that people are seeing government for what it is, I think, and that will last.
Yeah, the violence is like fire, and if you add fire on fire, like, you're just gonna make it bigger.
Yeah.
The only way to bring fire is to stop fire is to bring water on it. Okay, so it needs to come from another element, and the water is emotion. So you need to fight violence with peace. You need to fight angriness with love, and it's not going to be beautiful. It's sometimes going to be ugly, but I can tell you, people are learning, even if it's a hard lesson to learn. Even the violent people, like, are learning. Everyone.
For sure. Well, I don't know how you say this and pronounce it, correctly, but Viva la Revolution, is that it? Like, Viva la Revolution.
Viva la Revolution.
Yes. Well, more power to you guys, and thank you so much, Roman, for your time and coming on the show. And I would really like to have you back on, whenever you have updates for us on this issue to help you to get it out.
Yeah, I think every fortnight I can come back just to give you an update with pleasure.
Awesome. Yeah, perfect. Well, stay in touch, brother, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Dustin. Have a good day.